Today I'm behind the wheel of a brand new 2021 Kia K5, and this is the newest sedan to hit Kia's lineup. The K5 replaces the Optima, but in my opinion, the K5 is really like a cross between the Optima and the sporty Stinger. It has characteristics from both. So, just how good is this brand new K5? Well, keep watching and find out. Now, one of the biggest reasons why I think the K5 is a cross between the Optima and the Stinger is because of the outside. It has characteristics of both. The K5 is a traditional sedan, but it definitely has that aggressive look, a sports sedan look that's carried over from the Stinger. And if you look at the front end, very, very, very unique. You can see that the grille pattern, the way it flows into the very distinctive LED headlights with those really unique orange looking daytime running lights, it is definitely a looker. The front end is very aggressive. The hood is long and it slopes down quite a bit. If you move to the side, kind of the same thing. You have a low sitting sedan with a low roof, and it sits to the ground. It has a good stance, big 18-inch wheels that you see here. Now, for the most part, there's not a lot of chrome on the outside, but on the side, you can see this chrome strip go from the front of the window all the way to the back, and it does accentuate the rear window, and look at how sloped it is, carrying into the flat trunk. Now, if you move to the back of the K5, very distinctive, just like the front end, the LED tail lights have a really unique look. They're connected, from one side to the other. There is no chrome finishers, exhaust tips. They're hidden behind the bumper. But overall, all sides of this K5 on the outside has a really, really nice, aggressive, bold, and stylish look. The inside of this K5 is very, very nice, very luxurious. Everything looks good. It feels good. Plenty of wood, plenty of aluminum. And the overall dash design, center console design looks miles better than the previous Optima. Now, starting with the steering wheel, the K5 steering wheel looks pretty good. It looks good, it feels good, and overall, no complaints. You have some buttons on the right for your safety systems, also to control the info screen inside your gauge cluster. On the right side is for volume, scrolling your phone, all that good stuff. Now, looking at a gauge cluster, you have two analog gauges. They're surrounded by some aluminum. That's okay, it looks okay, but inside you do have a small info screen where you can look at the usual stuff like your fuel economy, drive info, your driving modes, stuff like that. Speaking about driving modes, there are a few. So you can select sport, normal, smart, and custom. You have memory seats, you have a panoramic sunroof on top, dual zone climate control, and you have plenty of USB ports. There's two up front and also one in the armrest and two in the rear. And not only that, you get heated and ventilated seats, which is nice, heated steering wheel, and also wireless charging. So you pretty much get it all inside this EX. Now, of course, you also get this beautiful 12.3-inch infotainment screen that is right at your fingertips. It looks very, very similar to the one that you find in Sonata, and that's not a bad thing. The screen is very bright, very high resolution, very responsive, scrolling left and right. There's absolutely no lag whatsoever. Of course, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto is standard, and there's many, many menu items that you can scroll through. And as for safety systems, you pretty much get it all too inside this K5. There's a driver attention warning, which makes sure that you're awake while you're driving. You have front safety, which means emergency braking and warning. Lane safety, which means that it'll help you stay within the lanes and warn you if you're swerving out. You also get blind spot monitoring, which is nice. And parking safety, which means that you have parking sensors front and rear to tell you if there's something in front of you or behind you. Very, very nice. You pretty much get the complete package. Something else that's small that I like is the standard shifter. Kias have stuck with the standard shifter, which I think just makes a whole lot of sense. There's also manual shifting if you wanted to do that, but its corporate cousin Hyundai has moved to the push button style, which takes getting used to. I just like the traditional shifter, and I think the one in the K5 is pretty good. Now, I did mention everything in here does look pretty nice. It does feel pretty nice, but there are some areas that still feel a little cheap. For example, the center console, there's plastic on both sides, so it does feel a little cheap. The shifter itself, even though I like a traditional shifter, it's not really wrapped in leather, so that could be better. Now, as for space, there's plenty of it. If you open up the trunk, you'll be surprised. The trunk space is actually pretty big. You have a spare tire underneath, which is good, and you can fold down the rear seats to generate more cargo room. Everything in here, inside this EX, is covered in a synthetic leather. It does look good, it feels good, but unfortunately it doesn't smell like real leather. But as for space, a good amount. I'm 5'10". Behind my driving position, I have about 5 to 6 inches of leg room. And for headroom, I have about 3 inches of headroom left. Up front, plenty of space too. Plenty of headroom, even though there's a panoramic sunroof up here. Plenty of shoulder room. Hip room is okay too, so yeah, pretty spacious in here. Now, with this EX and with all other trims, you do get a turbocharged 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine that is producing 180 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. And this engine is mated to an 8-speed automatic. All right, that's it for the outside, the inside, the features, and the engines. Next up, let me go for a drive. Let's see how good this K5 is on the roads. Now, the first impression I got when I sat inside is how cozy it feels. Now, I actually do have a good amount of headroom. It's not like I'm totally out of headroom, but because of the way the windshield is extremely raked, and because the dash is high, the door panels are high, and I'm sitting low to the ground, I definitely have that coziness, the sports car feel, which a lot of you guys will enjoy. This is very different than, say, a Sonata or a Accord or even a Camry. This is definitely snugger, right? But then again, even with that, it's not like it's small. It's just, it gives you a different vibe. So that's why this is a lot like, the Stinger in some ways. So some of you guys will appreciate that. Some of you guys that's looking for like very, very airiness inside the cabin, you're not gonna get that feel inside here. Now, I have been driving this K5 for a few days now, but not as much as I would have liked because there's so much snow, but I did drive around for a little bit. One thing I can tell you about these seats, it's really weird. I can't adjust it to the point where I really feel comfortable, especially the driver's seat I'm talking about. I mean, most cars, you get in, sometimes they just feel just right. Sometimes you adjust a little bit. This one, I keep adjusting, and there's something about it just doesn't fit my body. So the seat itself, it's holding my back in. It's not too aggressive. Bottom cushion, also somewhat comfortable, a little bit firmer, a little bit on the firmer side. Now, the seats in the rear are actually very comfortable. For rear seats, yeah, they're good and supportive, plenty of space, plenty of width, and overall, I think they're good. But up here, I just have a hard time adjusting them right. Now, I mentioned about the snug interior, but what's surprising is visibility all around is great. The front could be better. I mentioned about the dash a little bit higher, but overall, because of how long and sloping the hood is, I can see well past the hood, so that's a good thing. Side windows pretty big, and even blind spot is good too, because there's like a small quarter window back there, so it makes blind spot good. But also, I mentioned you already get blind spot monitoring in here, so you don't have to worry about it. And the rear window is also good. The headrests don't block the view at all, so visibility surprisingly is pretty good. And also, what's good is cabin noise. It is very well insulated in here. So today, it's a bad day, windy day, snow being slushed around, but overall, it's very quiet. No wind noise, cars passing by outside, very limited. Road noise, also very limited. The only thing that I hear a lot of is this engine, and that's one downside to this engine, is that it is noisy. Even at idle, it's noisy, just a clackling noise, clack like that. And anytime you accelerate, you go hear it, and it's not annoying. It's just engine noise. There's no exhaust noise, but you do hear the engine anytime you accelerate. But keep in mind, I do have the radio off. Overall, it's a pretty quiet ride, and it does add to the upgraded interior. I mentioned about how everything looks fantastic, way better than an Optima, right? Especially with this new infotainment screen that is right in front of you. This is a fantastic setup. That, along with the use of aluminum here and just the overall design, you know, it makes you feel like you're in a different class of car. It doesn't make you feel like this is a normal sedan. Okay, that was okay. There was a lot of turbo lag. You know, I floored it right around 5 miles per hour, went up to 60. So the tires just slipped a little bit. Once it caught up, there was a lot of turbo lag at the lower RPMs, and then it kind of kicked in. And even when it kicked in, this K5 doesn't feel very lively. I mean, this is kind of what I expected when I tested Sonata with this engine. And I'm like, man, this was really holding that Sonata back, especially compared to the very, very, very powerful Accord with the 2-liter turbo engine, and even the Camry with their V6. I mean, this really, really pales in comparison. Now, what about around town? Around town is fine, although when it cruises at low speed, I find the 8-speed is geared a little low so that it feels a little bogged down when you're traveling at low speeds, like at 40 miles per hour. At higher speeds, it's okay. Now, when you do want to try to pass, you know, I think it's okay, but keep in mind, when you first floor it, you go get that turbo lag right off the bat, and it takes a little bit before it starts really moving. As for steering, I mentioned about steering wheel feeling pretty good. The steering is okay, in between. There is quite a lot of steering play, as you can see in the steering wheel. There's a lot of play with no input, but it does have a good weight to it, a decent weight to it, so it kind of makes up for it a little bit. So the steering is okay, not the best, I would say just about average. Now, there is something about this drive that I really dislike, and I don't know what's going on with it, and that is the brake pedal. The brake pedal is really, really bad in my opinion. I don't know what's going on with it. In most cars, the brakes just feel fine. The pedal has a good linear stop, right? So good travel, good stop. A lot of cars, and most cars, you know, it's not stiff or mushy, and the brakes are just brakes. They're normal. But inside this K5, that's not the case. This brake pedal is extremely touchy, to the point where it's either on or off fully. There's no give at all. So as soon as you step on it, after about an inch, it's like the brakes activate and it comes to a stop really fast, really fast. You don't get that travel. You don't get that linear stopping. So when I first started driving this K5, I kept like doing this because I couldn't get the brakes to feel normal because of the pedal. So I don't know what's going on. It's like super, super, super sensitive, touchy, and that is something that you're gonna have to get used to if you get inside a K5, because it doesn't behave like any other sedan out there in a bad way. There's just so much snow everywhere. So much snow everywhere, piled everywhere. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I did mention, I want to tell you how this K5 drives in the snow. And for the most part, it's okay. Front wheel drive, definitely easier to drive than rear wheel drive in the winter. Obviously, all wheel drive is optimal. But for those of you guys that's afraid of snow, you know what? You want to look at snow tires, because snow tires does make a dramatic difference in terms of how your car will handle the snow. Even with all wheel drive, snow tires make a big difference. But right now, feels pretty good. Now, I didn't talk about suspension yet. It's okay for the most part. I do feel like it's a little bit stiffer, not as comfortable and smooth as, say, a Sonata or a Accord or a Camry, but it isn't too bad either. Overall, It does a good job around town. So next up, let me talk about trim levels and pricing and give you my final thoughts on this brand new K5. As for trim levels, there are 5 to the brand new 2021 K5. The base is LX and it starts under $24,000. Then you have the LXS, the GT line, and then the EX, which starts a tad over $28,000. The one I'm driving today, which is the EX, comes with a premium package, and that adds on the bigger infotainment screen, navigation, memory seats, LED tail lamps, heated steering wheel, smart cruise control, and much more. This package is an additional $3,400. Finally, you have the GT, which is over $30,000, and it does have a different and much more powerful engine. To conclude, the 2021 Kia K5 is a great upgrade from the old Kia Optima. The outside has a striking look that's very different from all other sedans in this class. The inside is also filled with very nice trim pieces along with good use of aluminum. The dash design and center console is very functional, and the infotainment system is outstanding. The cabin provides good visibility and there's good space overall, including cargo room. Finally, the K5 provides a comfortable and quiet ride. The bad includes the coziness of the cabin makes the K5 feel smaller than it is. The brakes are way too touchy and comes on sooner than expected. The base engine provides just so-so acceleration, and the steering is in the middle of the pack. I'm giving the 2021 Kia K5 a score of 95. To see how it ranks among its peers, check out driversonlyrankings.com. Thanks for watching, hit the like and subscribe to the channel, and check out these other reviews.